Hey everyone, it is May right now, and I'm gonna give you guys an update on my 2019 Laverne Manila rootstocks. So these rootstocks was planted out in 2019. They were bought from Home Depot, and I began my grafting on it. The majority of my grafting began in 2022. So that's when the majority of my grafts began. And I'm gonna give you guys an update. So when May, how was April been? April has been very kind of gloomy, lots of mildew in the morning. Most of my nights has been in the mid 50s to the low the mid 50s to the low 50s, and the daytime temps has always been hovering like high 60s, and every now and then like the low 70s, but it's kind of that prime powder mildew kind of weather. So it causes a lot of powder mildew issue, at least in my area. So let's take a look at this. I think I mentioned to you guys already, I do not have the intention of keeping the fruits on any of this. I want to get one more year of vegetative growth, and then when it comes to next year, then that's when I'm going to be spraying and really trying to make sure the fruits hold and try to get fruits for that year. But with that said, every time you go through it, you kind of you thin the fruits. You always look at it, it's like, oh shit, should I keep this? Especially when it's a fruit that I haven't tried yet, a variety I haven't tried yet. It's very tempting to do it. Like, ideally, I want to just cut everything off. But when you actually go through and start cutting and thinning and all these little fruitlets, it gets kind of difficult. So we'll see. So the next time you can see an update on this, I'll probably show you guys an update. I'll probably show you guys aftermath of it, because at least in my area, the forecast for the next week seems that we will hit 60, and it seems like 60 nighttime temps, and we might be, at least in the forecast, be in there for like at least a week. Who knows what happens after that? But if we are in it for like about a week, I will be removing the fruitlets, the bloom panicles, and everything, and hope for the best of a vegetative flush. I tell you guys every time, don't remove the fruitlets. If you don't want it to rebloom, make sure the nighttime temps are above 60. That's definitely when it blooms. Definitely when it won't rebloom, and that's a sure thing. But sometimes you have a higher daytime temps, that kind of prevents it from blooming too. So let's kind of take a look at everything. All the fruitlets that's on here, most of it, again, like I say, or at least in my mind, all of it will be removed. And you see some of these flowers right here. I've been trying to get a lot of stuff to naturalize in my yard, like that reseeds itself, whether the like edible mustards, whether the radishes, whether the edible chrysanthemum. These are actually radish flowers, very kind of pretty. They do get pretty tall, like 5.5 feet, 6 feet. So let's take a look at this. This is the variety Dolores. So this is probably the best looking fruitlets I've seen on Dolores. I had this bloom at least for the last 2-3 years. It's probably the best kind of fruitlets I've seen on it. I haven't heard too much about it, so I don't expect it to be like an amazing flavor or anything like that. But yeah, this is the best looking kind of fruitlets I've seen. But you can still see a lot of like powder mildew issues on it. So that's Dolores. Here's Little Gem. I've liked Little Gem. I think these are nubbins, but they usually do a real late rebloom. So Little Gem is one I really like. It's the grafting area right behind it, right there. Kind of give you guys. This is Sunrise. Sunrise right here. Sunrise has got a lot of attention lately, and at least for those that's trying to grow them in Southern California. It's an okay grow for me. I have not noticed any more vigor on it than anything else. It just seems okay in comparison. Like a sweet tart is much more vigor, right? Like here's the graft of Sunrise, and here's the graft of sweet tart, and you can see how much larger the sweet tart is. So if you guys ask me, is it one I recommend? I don't think it's the most vigorous. Doesn't seem to be very disease free eater, so it's something you probably definitely hold back on. This is a variety sunrise, and all these 3 years I've never seen it even set like a nubbin or anything like that. So here's Super Julie, and I have a lot of Super Julie grafts, so I'll be removing this, and hopefully I get some vegetation. Super Julie. I've been getting mostly nubbins on these, but we'll see what happens. And here is the sweetheart. Here's the sweetheart graft right here. Nice size. I'll be removing all of these. Look at the fruitlets on here. It looks like quite a bit. And my experience with it is that it all ends up being nubbins, because I did not do a diligent spraying regimen on it, like spraying job on it. So, but you could kind of see, like, those varieties that tends to produce nubbins tends to also do well in handling, giving it like a good spray schedule, and they tended to produce healthy fruits. Just because they're already producing nubbins, they just need a little bit of help, so let's see what else I got here. Here's a peach cobbler right here, okay, and then there's some grass that failed, so Fallon. Here's the next tree. Okay. This is planted all at the same time, but this has always ended up being my largest rootstock from that batch. It just has grown, just much more vigorous than the others. Unfortunately, I did have some dieback, and I get asked this question a lot about dieback, what's the cause of it, what do I think the cause of it is. And usually, at least this tree is pretty vigorous, but I've had in the past year, had a peach cobbler that died back, a honey kiss that died back, and unfortunately this year it looks like I'm having 2 more branches that's dying back. This was a harvest moon right here, harvest moon right here, and there's 2 types of dieback you kind of see in California that occurs. One of it is pretty easy to spot, and sometimes you can kind of help prevent that dieback. Like the dieback would start from the tip, and they would kind of move down, and some people try to cut it ahead of it and spray. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. It just still keep on spreading. And the other dieback that you see, which happened on these 2, is that everything looks perfectly fine. The stem tip, there's nothing wrong with the stem tips. It looks great. And then unfortunately, one day, especially when it's like a warm day, you notice that the leaves look dehydrated. It looks like a little bit wilty. It's not that bad, just looks a little bit wilty. And then unfortunately it goes downhill very drastically, very fast. In the next couple of days, the whole thing just kind of looks like a dehydrated branch. And that happens a lot. I don't know specifically, I can't say for certain what it is, but I could say that I am pretty sure it's my guess is that it's a fungus infection that kind of gets into the branch. And it doesn't get into the branch from the stem tips, it kind of gets into the branch from like further down where the branch is at, whether it's the graft union, for example, or just some kind of damage that occurred on the branch. And it's very, very tough to spot. The only thing I've noticed that changes is that the branch begins to give kind of this dull grayish color before you see any symptoms of anything else. And then that dull grayish color is kind of what the first symptom I've ever been able to spot of it. So this is what happened with it. It happens a bit more often with turpentine rootstock, and it might have to do with the graft union itself, right? So if you get a grafted tree from Florida, the graft union is much lower, and then when you do get these diebacks, it pretty much kills the tree, but this is something that happened a bit higher on, and that's just my theory. I've done stuff to try to prevent it. There hasn't been anything great that has really worked that fine. I think for branches that are exposed to the sunlight, like exposed to like a lot of intense sun, has a bit more issue with it. They get sunburn, during summer and fall, and then when winter comes, that sunburn kind of is an area for like fungal to get into it. So that's kind of my thing. I think the best prevention is probably like coat it with paint or some kind of sealer, especially on all these branches that is exposed to like a lot of intense sun. That's my guess on like the best way to approach it. Okay, so this one was a harvest moon, fortunately dieback. This was a ice cream, which I was like, it's another setback on this ice cream. Ice cream has been one that I've been trying to grow, and I've had so much issues with ice cream, whether it's a tree by itself, whether it's the graft. So here's another one that's just kind of failed, and it was actually beginning to look good. I was hoping that it might give me some growth this year, but same symptom, looked fine, and then one day just kind of looked wilty, and then died. Unfortunately, what can you do? So that happens quite a bit in California. It seems to happen less, especially on like very vertical branches or very vigorous varieties. But if the variety is a bit slow growing and stuff like that, and you're getting a lot of kind of weepy limbs, then it seems to occur a lot more. So okay, so that's those two that died back. Everything else looks pretty good, so let me kind of show you guys the rest of this stuff. Here's a maha, kind of rebloom right here. I think this is reblooming. Yeah, so here's a maha. Let's see, here's a raw honey, kind of a bit of slow grower. The other varieties are really taking over, while this one hasn't really done much. Might need to try to take a graft of this and get a backup of it somewhere, because I feel like this one might end up dying back eventually, just because the limb's been small and weepy, So behind it right here, this one's a Sindri, and it just doesn't want to bloom. It's very unusual, especially having varieties in California that doesn't want to bloom. So here's another one, which is Safida Lucknow, very vigorous grower. Here's the graft union. Don't mind the black. The black is like a tree wound sealer, which I use on a lot of my graft unions, because usually they seem to take, at least in California, take years to finally fully heal. They always end up kind of leaking a lot of sap for several years. So that's Safida Lucknow. Sparse bloom, there's some bloom, but sparse bloom, and there's so many more branches that has no bloom. Very interesting to see in California, especially varieties that doesn't want to bloom. Doesn't really happen. Here's an Alfonso, a regular Alfonso, very powder mildew prone. And here's a fruit set on my friend's Brian's. This is his peach cobbler seedling. Very interesting one. He believes it's a cross between, well, it's a peach cobbler seedling, definitely, but he believes it's a cross with an Indian variety. I think it might be a maha, but we're not sure. But he would probably know more about it himself in terms of the taste. But look at the fruit set on this, and I just grafted this last end of year. So as tempting as it is to kind of keep this, not focusing. As tempting as it is to keep this, I'm gonna have to probably remove this. Look how green and healthy it looks. Very cool, So it's an amazing tasting seedling. Very good tasting seedling. One of the best fruits I've had. So it's definitely a keeper. Here's my California Romit. Lots of fruitlets set on that. Here is Valkyrie. Nothing set. That doesn't really tend to rebloom too. So let's see. Keep on going. Here's a Brahm Chimea. A couple of fruitlets. I'll be removing it. Here's a Golden Queen, Cat Saigon, Jin Huang, whatever you want to call it. Has many names. It's even reblooming a bit, but it has fruit set on here too. Some of these I could tell is probably nubbins, but they tend to produce pretty large nubbins, especially something like this. Like you see, there's roughening. Usually these are kind of nubbins with that, but this is you know, some of it looks pretty good, but I don't know if I'm gonna keep it. I might just remove it. It's kind of, this whole branch has been just kind of too heavy, top loaded heavy, so it's been kind of just weeping down. Okay, let's move on. Let's kind of take a look at, here's an M4 graft that is blooming. I've liked the flowers on the M4. Like the way I would describe the blooms on the M4 is that it's very spreading. It's not condensed. Like the flower tends to be you know, lots of space between the bloom bracts, and it just seems like it would be a much more disease-free blooms just from the natural look of the flowers. And I've noticed that it doesn't really seem to catch anything, so that's the interesting thing about M4. So it does seem to be more disease-free. Okay, here's a ceiling I grafted of some Paris. Let's take a look. Here's a I think this is a buttercream right here. I'm not sure it's gonna do anything. This ain't the best area for it. Let's see. Here's a variety called 2 from Taiwan. It's used frequently as a rootstock. Been pretty interesting, but I'm not sure how disease-free it is. It seems to be a little bit more prone to powder mildew than I like. So, okay. Let's see. Here's a ambrosia. Ambrosia is a nice, vigorous, growing variety. It tends to have a classic taste with a finish of kind of terpenes, you know, finish of piney terpenes, but classic with that piney finish. Here is Juliet. Look at Juliet. It does that every year, and then they tend to just drop. Lots of it tends to be kind of nubbins, but every time the blooms just looks very clean. But you know, they just end up dropping most of it. So I'll be just removing this. I mean, I have tasted it last year, so it kind of reminded me of a Kerry. But this is a Juliet. Right here is Diamond, the Zero Diamond. It's a Nam Dak Mai seedling. So hasn't really done well. Tends to be a lot of PM prone. This one looks like a nub, and the shape just doesn't look right, I think. Oh, and that one fell off. Let's see. Yeah, it's kind of a bit round, and I don't think the shape of this diamond is like that. It's more elongated shape. Okay, here's a pineapple pleasure. The blooms kind of fell off. There's one tiny bloom. I don't think it's gonna set anything. I did get one fruit from it last year. Here's more of Sindri. Doesn't want to bloom much. Look at all these stem tips with no blooms. Very, very unusual. So let's see. Okay. Up next, here is a sweet tart right here. Sweet tart. This one actually has some vegetation that's pushing. It has a rebloom that's pushing. Sweet tart. Let's see what else I got. I believe this is Duncan right here. Duncan right here, and here's an Angie graft right here. Here's the rootstock. You know, and they set some fruits. I'm gonna keep the fruits probably on this to kind of show you guys how this looks like. It's a pretty fruit, but very highly fibrous. It's a Verne Manila. Here's a Sassy Love right here. Some more sweet tart, Super Julie. This is N12, Zell N12. Haven't really heard much about it. Let's see. Orange Essence right here. And then there's like a Prom Chimera somewhere in the back. Here's a Giselle. I like the growth from the Giselle. Very kind of vigorous. I've never tasted it yet, but it's a vigorous grower, in my opinion. Here's a Guava, Saint Alone. seems a little disease prone. I'm hoping it's not, because I do have quite a bit of seedlings of guava, but it seems a little bit disease prone. Here is orange sherbet. I don't know if there's anything, and there's something, I'm not sure that would stick, but you know, orange sherbet. Here's another maha right here, bunch of seedlings. Okay, on to the next tree. Here's my kind of the saddest looking of my rootstock on this one. I showed you guys that before. I kind of been just leaving it alone for now. It had a lot of failed grafts on it that just kind of set it back and stuff, so I'm just letting it be right now. Okay, here is ST Maui right here. Look at it. I have sprayed it at least 4 times this year. So you can see a lot of fruitlets right there that hopefully set and holds. I'm not sure I'm gonna let all of it stay. Maybe I'm trying to plan. I think I'm gonna plan to try to keep the bottom one, let the bottom one fruits, and then maybe prune the top branches, and hopefully that top branches kind of get some vegetation growth, you know. So that's my plan. I think that's what I'm gonna do with it. Like all these fruitlets that's on the lower branches, let's just let it be, because you know, the lower branches I'm gonna probably eventually remove it, but the top branches I want to get some vegetation going on it. So this ST Mao, this is one of the best fruits I've had, and it's probably the best fruit I had from my own yard. You know, I haven't had everything I produced, but probably the best tasting fruit I had from my own yard a couple of years back. So kind of more of it. Here's my California Remit. Kind of notice how much fruitlets it sets. It's pretty disease, fungal free and everything. It's just that it's a fibrous fruit. That's the only thing. Great for green eating, and not for really ripe eating. This is Sassy Love. Look at this branch. It hasn't. I've not liked the growth of it. I think I'm gonna be doing a hard prune on this. Kind of try to get it back to like a branch or two. Sassy Love, at least in my area, I wouldn't recommend it. Lots of people say it tastes like sweet tart, so just kind of grow sweet tart. You know, sweet tart is much more vigorous, much more disease-free. The Sassy Love has not even ever set any kind of nubbins in my area. Okay. Here is a lemon zest. I mean, I sprayed this at least 4 times too, but it's not holding, or at least the fruitlets that did kind of set is like covered in PM, covered in powdery mildew. There's a more recent graft, so that's that. Okay, here's some more of the California Remit, looking nice. And here is a seedling lemon zest that I grafted. It's a seedling that is most likely crossed with some kind of Indian Alfonso type like fruit. Fortunately, it seems to be a bit powdery mildew prone. So smells awesome though. I take a bit of this to smell. Smell awesome. It's like an amazing Alfonso like perfume, kind of very strong. Okay. Okay, here's the next tree. Unfortunately, this tree is kind of leaning pretty badly. Not really sure what happened. I think it's a combination of the branching being more heavy on this side, along with we had some heavy winds that came from that side that kind of push it. So once I kind of prune all this, I'm gonna have to stake it and pull it to one side. Let's see. So, but there's a lot of stuff going on here, and this is the one tree where I'm not sure if I should let some of the fruits hold or not. Look, here's some M4 fruitlets that's holding. That's just a graft that I made last year, but you know, I do have several experiments in grafting with M4, so it's very tempting to kind of let it be and leave it be. Here's a lemon zest. Seems to be holding some fruit. Seems to be blooming awesome. So again, lemon zest. This is kind of that one tree where I'm not sure how much of fruits I should leave. It's just kind of very tempting. And some of these higher ones, I don't really want it to kind of grow too fast anyway. I need the other side to kind of catch up to it. But here's all these other fruitlets you see here. These are all California meant for eating green, you know. But quite a bit of it. It's kind of like set off over the place, you know. So now let's take a look at the kind of more well-known varieties, right? So here is Dupree Saigon. Nope, this one is not Dupree Saigon. Here is Dupree Saigon right here. Dupree Saigon. I think that this one's Dupree Saigon. Okay, let's. If this sets, this is the first time I would have seen it set on this fruit. This is a Bombay right here. Fortunately, Bombay, very PM prone, you know. So, and you could kind of see some more California Remit right there. Here's some more Golden Queen, Jin Huang, Cat Saigon. Probably the furthest on my fruitlets on these, but I think I'll be removing that. These are definitely nubbins. And I'm gonna just let it grow, you know. So, and it seems like here's more of the Cat Saigon, and it's reblooming. And let's see, I have some more stuff here. Don't think I remember the name right off the bat. Let's see, trying to get my tag, see if it still exists. Oh yeah, here's a Zebda. This one's a Zebda right here. This one's reblooming. And I think this one's Hindi Besanara. Oh, this one right here is Hindi Besanara. Okay. There's a fruit cocktail, tiny fruit cocktail graft somewhere in there too. But lots of my mustards and my chrysanthemum, you see, kind of getting really large and beginning to set seeds and flowers and so forth. Okay, up next, here is a cack mango. The wind and everything, the branching is just too long and it's kind of beginning to get weepy. I kind of just stacked a bunch of pots on here to kind of brace it from like the wind pushing it and it limping. So I am not sure about this one. Might keep some of the fruitlets on the lower branch and see if they develop to anything else. But like some of the longer branches, I'll be removing it. So, and then these red fruitlets, you see, this is definitely Super Julie. The red fruitlets, I'm definitely removing the Super Julie. And then, you know, when you get these limping, these kind of weepy branches, they tend to end up forcing blooms even below it. You know, that's kind of what happens. So, here's a cotton candy right here. So, okay, the shape of this, it's just kind of a bit wild. I'm gonna have to do some hard pruning on it this year. Okay, up next, let's see, here's a Florigon right here. Look at that. Oh, this just broke off just from touching it a bit. And this branch right here is reblooming Florigon right here. Here's a gram right here, and here's some more gram fruitlets. I am removing definitely the gram, trying to let it get some vegetation this year. It's given me fruits the past 2 years. You know, gave me like a fruit, 2-3 fruit here and there, you know. So made some new grafts. Here's another Juliet, and then here's another peach cobbler right here. And then here's the California Remit. Okay, well, that's an update on everything for these rootstocks, and next time you guys see it, I'll probably kind of do a quick review of it and then an aftermath of pruning on it, just because I think we are getting safely into that temperature range where I could remove all the blooms without it triggering another rebloom. Alright guys, thanks for sticking around with this update.